Greetings, MelVee viewers and family. It's good to have you join us today. What a moment we have with you today. I don't know where you're watching this from, but this is, if it was in the movies, we'll say it's a thriller. We would say it's a blockbuster. This is a powerful topic, and you would know why we're discussing it, because on this show, MelVee Podcast on the Go, we talk to anyone, anywhere, about anything, and therefore hold on to your seats, don't go away. It's going to be a thrilling discussion of a topic that has been trending a lot on social media. Hashtag Trojan Horse. I'm sure you remember all of the stuff we've heard about it. And today we decided to come and sit down with the author of the article that created that trend. Mfundiswa,
Yes, sir.
good to have you today.
Thank you, and I'm pleased that you're having me on your channel.
Fantastic. This is going to be a special one. We're talking to Pastor Modiri. Many of you know him by different names. Others call him Molatudi. I'm just going to call you Molatudi today.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a reason why.
Sure.
Our viewers don't know that the reason why I have to call you by that name. By the way, when they call you by that name, what do they mean? Your parents or whoever gave it to you?
Yeah, well, I go by different names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I go by different names. Some call me BG, some call me, by other nicknames.
Yes.
But my official names are Molatudi Lotamoreng Abraham Mudir. Now, Molatudi is a bearer of news. That's what basically the name means. A bearer of news.
A bearer of news.
Yeah,
no
that's
wonder.
its name. That's its honor name.
Wow.
Yeah,
No wonder you get into your study room and wrote this blockbuster article, Trojan Horse, the attack from within.
Correct,
Before we talk about
correct.
that, let's talk about you, the bearer of the news. Tell us, who is Molatudi?
I was born in Alexandra, and I grew up in Alexandra, got educated in Alexandra, and after completing matric, I then went to Vista University, and from Vista University, then I went to Bethel to go and study ministry there.
Okay.
And then from there, I came back, worked a little bit, and I went back to school to complete my theology degree.
Yes.
With Andrews University on Heidelberg campus in Somerset West.
All right.
And then after completing that, I went to Stellenbosch University to go and do my MBA, which I did not complete because I think I've got a lot of things at that time on my plate, so I couldn't complete it. And I'm married now for 37 years. I've got 3 adult children. Wow. And all of them are on their own. And I can thank God for it.
Amen.
I can thank God for it. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Yeah,
That's quite an elaborate profile. So we could say actually you have been on the theological space for quite a while.
Yeah, quite some time. Because I went to Bethel around 1986. And then I went to Heidelberg 1995, and I graduated in 1998. Wow. So I've been in this space for quite some time, and I love theology, I love philosophy, I love things that have to do with God and those topics. Yeah, that's my passion.
You have not shied away from sharing your thoughts.
No.
And I see that because the first time I heard your name was during the famous TOC struggle.
Yeah.
Is it the Alberton and Orange Grove?
Alberton, Orange
you were
Grove.
very vocal.
2013.
Tell us about that.
It was 2013.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Yeah. What the kind of person that I am in terms of sharing my views and stuff like that. I guess I was born with that, and I'm not the kind of person that keeps quiet. I like speaking. I don't like dying on the inside.
Yes,
I share my views, and I like debate. I like engaging.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to be disagreed with.
I think you are the kind of people who say, let my people think.
Yeah. People must think whatever they want to think. I think whatever I want to think.
Yes.
And let's engage and let's talk and disagree without being disagreeable. That's me.
Yes.
I love sharing my ideas. I love sharing my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what got me involved in issues like you said.
So at that time when this struggle, I just want to drill on you, because for me, I don't think our people ever had an opportunity to look back and say what really happened.
Yeah.
When it happened, where were you? That TOC struggle. Were you in the leadership back then?
No, I wasn't in the leadership. I was just a pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, in the TOC. And then we had that special session in Bloemfontein.
All right. So you were there?
Yeah, I was there. I was in Bloemfontein.
Okay.
And that session actually removed the entire executive, and some of us felt that it was unconstitutionally done, and we challenged that, and that's when the whole thing actually started.
Yeah. But then, as the progression went on, you decided to then review your position on what has happened. Where are you standing right now in terms of the issues?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. What happened was, after the 23rd, I think it was 23rd February, 2013. Like I said, most of us felt that what happened in Bloemfontein was unconstitutional.
And in fact, the courts, I think, confirmed that.
And the courts confirmed that later on. So we felt that we were not going to accept what happened, the outcome of that Bloemfontein session. So we then lodged our complaint and we remonstrated against that, and that's how Albertine was born. Now, I was in the forefront of that whole thing.
Yeah.
I was actually in the forefront of that whole thing.
True to your name.
and because I felt that policies were violated.
Yes.
And the Constitution was violated. And not only that, but the whole Christian atmosphere, spirit
and ethics
was violated.
Yes.
We did not deal with one another in a way that we should have as Christians. So then Albertine was formed. But after a few months in Albertine, I realized that the same thing is continuing there. Policy is being violated. Constitution is being violated. And I started becoming vocal as well there.
Okay.
Now that will tell you the kind of person that I am. So I'm not loyal to persons.
Okay.
I'm loyal to principles. That's what I'm married to, principles, policies of the church. So I started making noise there in Albertine. Said, people, we cannot continue in Albertine with what we were fighting in Orange Grove.
All right.
And when I did not get a hearing, and I then decided, look, I've made my contribution, and maybe it's time to exit. So that's when I resigned from Albertine.
From them.
Yeah.
You're back in the TOC.
So I'm back in the TOC. So at the time when I resigned, Pastor Shoko was still the president.
Yes.
And so he then said, look, man, why don't you apply? And let's take it to the executive committee and let's hear what the executive committee will say. And I applied, and the executive committee said,
come back.
Looks like we can work with this guy,
Great.
He's a hard head, but he's a hot head, but I think we can work with him.
What have they set you to do now? What have you been up to recently?
Well, I've been a pastor. So I've moved from one district to the other. Right now, I'm serving in the Ebenezer district.
Okay.
Yeah. And prior to that, I was in the Greater Soweto district. Yeah.
I'm glad you're back to shepherd the fold, because I believe as a bearer of the news, you've got a work to do.
Yeah, correct.
And now let's talk about this Trojan horse, the attack from within. What inspired you to write this one?
Look, there was a women's conference at Sun City.
Oh, you mean Sin City?
That's what some people now call it. They call it Sin City. When people came back from that conference, they started giving reviews about it. and there were mixed reviews. Right? Some people thought it was good, it was a wow kind of thing.
Yeah.
But others did not feel the same way. And I followed this debate. All right? I followed this debate. Now, what made me write this article was not so much so what was being debated, but how the whole thing was being debated.
All right.
I think that's, for me,
Yeah.
that's what triggered the article. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So the issue was not whether or not the conference was good. It wasn't about that. In fact, when it started, it was about that, but it quickly deviated from that.
Yeah.
So it was now more about whether or not we should talk about that
thing and
conference.
who did what.
All right?
Yeah.
And who is qualified to talk about that conference, and whether or not we are in a position to review what happened in that conference. So those became the things that actually interested me, because then I realized that it looks like we are now beginning to think differently as Adventists.
Okay.
You know, because what was coming across was going against the grain of who we are as Adventists. Okay. For instance, all right. For instance, you had people now who are saying, let's not even discuss this matter.
Yeah.
And I was saying, as I was listening to this, I was saying, but that's an Adventist. In the Adventist church, we talk about anything and everything. We debate anything and everything. And at every level, for that matter, we discuss. Now, it's a new spirit that says we are not supposed to discuss issues simply because we feel strong about them. All right? And then another thing was, you are not qualified to talk about this matter. Why? Because you are a man. And I said, this was
about women.
This was a women's conference. So a lot of people who said, as men, you better shut up. You can't talk about this. And I was kind of, this is strange again.
Yeah.
Because the issue, the discussion, was not around gender. The discussion was about right or wrong, good or bad, and stuff like that. And this concepts transcend gender. Now, if people are going to say, you can't talk about this because you are a man, it's a dangerous space that we're putting ourselves in.
Why do you say it's dangerous?
It is dangerous because then what it does is it excludes certain people, all right, from certain discussions.
Okay.
Now, I know that I'm putting myself in a position where I could be charged with what they call it, slippery slope fallacy. But the problem is, if you're going to say, I'm a man, therefore I can talk about issues that have to deal with women, then you're basically saying, as a woman, you can talk about issues that deal with men. But how far do we carry that? Then children will say, you are adults, you can't talk about things that deal with children. And as adults, we can say to children, you can't talk about issues that, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And that becomes a big problem. But then what it does also, it entrenches certain ideas and certain philosophies which we need to guard against as a church, like feminism. Patriarchy, this,
masculinity,
that,
this and that,
and stuff like that, particularly toxic masculinity. So for me, that created a problem. Okay. And the article is actually dealing with that. It's not so much so dealing with what happened in Sun City.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I did not want to get myself
embroiled into the nitty-gritties.
Embroiled in that thing. I was more like, people, are you aware that the ideas that you are now advocating are foreign to the Adventist church?
Okay.
And you are Adventists. Now you are already inside, and now you're advocating ideas that are subverting the philosophy, the
Okay.
very philosophy of Adventism. This is Trojan horse in the church. That's
All
what
right.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Because had you indicated that this is who you are and this is what you think, I don't think you would have been admitted into the membership of the church. But now you came in knowing exactly what the church believes in, what it stands for, and while inside, now you are rebelling against the church. That's Trojan horse in the church.
So this is a big hashtag now. You realize that on social media.
I'm not on social media, but I hear, people send me messages and they call me and say, "Hey man, you've caused a tremor of some sort."
It has, and I'm glad we could actually sit down with you and discuss these ideas and that thinking. I am on social media. I have definitely followed quite a bit of what's happening. Just a simple search of the word Trojan horse will bring out all the different things that are being said. People visit one church these days and they say, "I Trojan horse." So let's talk about the significance of that strategy, because you picked it and you say this is what's happening. Trojan horse, it's an old Greek mythology or story. Talk to us about that. What actually happens when something is Trojan horsed?
Well, the story of Troy, the city of Troy. We know that the Greeks, Spartans specifically, besieged the city of Troy during the Trojan Wars. And the Troy Wars.
The Troy Wars,
yes, the Troy Horse, which lasted for about 10 years. So they besieged that city for 10 years, and they couldn't defeat it because the walls were impregnable.
Fortress.
Right? Yeah, it was a fortress. And Odysseus, who was the king of the Greeks, came up with the stratagem. Is that, guys, because we can't defeat these people from the outside, we need to come up with some strategy to go inside, and then from the inside, then attack them. So he came up with this idea of of constructing a very huge wooden horse.
Wow!
All right, and then some select soldiers were hidden in it, and then
these were masterclass. Killer soldiers.
Exactly. I mean, the Spartans were master
machines.
Soldiers. So they hid themselves in this horse, and the rest of the Greek soldiers pretended to be sailing back to Greece.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the morning, they
left this thing.
They left it there, and then these fellows. They realized that the ships are gone, the soldiers are gone, but there's this white horse. Rather, this wooden horse, and they wondered. So the king of Troy then sent out spies to go and check, and they came back. They gave a report. They said, "These guys are gone, but there's a horse there." So he interpreted that as some kind of a truce that the Spartans were giving him, But some people warned him and said, "Be careful, because we really don't know what this is." And they said, "No, man, listen. I think these guys are giving us a truce. Bring it in. Let's go and celebrate. This is some kind of a victory type of trophy." And they brought it in. Little did they realize that they were bringing enemies in. So when they were in.
They waited for the night. Yes.
At night, the Greek soldiers sailed back.
Okay.
They sailed back. And then these ones crawled out of the horse and opened the gates for the Greeks to then come in. That's how the Troy actually fell.
Wow.
So the concept of Trojan horse basically means you are bringing an enemy inside unawares, thinking that an enemy is a friend.
Wow.
That's what the concept
thinking an enemy has given you something special to celebrate on.
Exactly.
And so let's then take a step back and ask ourselves, why would you believe that the church in South Africa has been Trojan horsed? Because that's the context you're saying.
Correct.
Speak to us to why you believe it is.
Look, this is my view. My view is As a church, we evangelize.
Yes.
Right? We evangelize, and we evangelize anybody and everybody. Right? And then we baptize people. And this we do, by the way, on the basis of the Great Commission of Matthew chapter 28, and also the three angels' message of Revelation chapter 14.
Yes.
Because we believe that is our commission, that is our mission as the Seventh Adventist Church. So we evangelize. And then people accept the message. But as you would know, before people get baptized, they are trained, they are taught, they are discipled into Adventism, right? And when they get accepted into the membership of the church, they pledge to support the church and what it stands for. And so the church accepts them
to be in the fellowship of
to
the
be in the
membership.
fellowship. And there's people that will support the church and what it stands for. Now, the concept of the Trojan horse in this context comes as when people come in and having been accepted by the church thinking that it's accepting people that truly and wholeheartedly accept and support the principles of the church. These same people then rise against the church from the inside.
It sounds like what Balak and Balaam also planned, isn't it? And I know you talked about it in your article here.
Correct.
That he said, these ones are too blessed to be cursed.
Correct. Actually, Balaam tried to curse them.
Yeah.
And
he couldn't from outside.
he couldn't. And Balak was exasperated.
Yeah.
Was very angry.
Yeah.
Because he knew that if this guy had succeeded in cursing them, then they would be defeated. But he couldn't. God stopped him from doing that. Instead, he blessed them. So when Balaam went back, Balak came with a strategy. He said, the only way we can defeat these people is to deploy our women amongst them. And when that happened, then sexual immorality and idolatry became pervasive in Israel. And God turned his back
on Israel.
And if you read the story very carefully, you will realize that about 24,000 Israelites died as a result of that. But the story doesn't actually end there. Because then you realize that becomes the history of Israel. The sexual immorality and idolatry, child sacrifices and stuff like that. And this whole process started when they were on the banks of Jordan and when the Moabitesses invaded them.
So let's talk about the Trojan horse in the church. What you write in this issue and express a couple of things. I'm going to just read this from what I reviewed in the article, and you elaborate a little bit on it. You say the church has standards and regulations of behavior, of dress, of singing, and worship.
Correct.
But this is no longer the case.
Correct.
Something has come in. Talk to us about what has come in.
Yeah, look, the Seventh Adventist Church has been in existence for now about 169 years. And over these many years, it has come up with principles and policies which govern the church, not just as an institution, but also as members in the church. You know, and it has a philosophy. It has a way of doing things, and it has reasons why it does things the way it does them. So it has standards, it has principles with respect to music, with respect to dress, with respect to diet, with respect to many other things, you know, moral behavior and stuff like that. And rightly so. It has a right as an organization to have those standards.
Exactly.
But when you look at the church today, you realize that not only are the standards not upheld anymore, But there seems to be an intention, an agenda to undermine these standards and these principles in the church.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of their standards, but they're a little bit too high. And we're struggling. We're trying, but we are struggling. That's a different story.
Okay.
The spirit that's there is, we don't need these standards, and we're going to violate them, and we're going to eradicate them.
They are the reason why people are not coming to church. That's what people are saying.
Exactly. So
remove
remove the standards. That's the spirit that is prevailing today in church, and it's a worrisome spirit.
Yeah. I've seen non-SDA musicians ministering in our churches, which I don't think we would have if it was a pastor coming to minister. Is that a Trojan horse?
It's a Trojan horse in the sense that we have guiding principles in the church manual and also in the spirit of prophecy, which warn us against using people who are not our members to stand on our podiums, either to preach or even to sing. Actually, it's very interesting because I'm writing about this in Trojan Horse Attack from Within Part 2.
Oh, I would love to read that one.
Yes. So that is coming out.
Okay.
And I'm addressing that specifically with respect to music. That we have a principle. We have guidance from the spirit of prophecy as to who we can use from our podiums. Now, you've got the generation of today that says we will disregard that. We will not give attention to that. We will use whoever we want to use. And that's it. And for me, that is problematic because it's not like people don't know. They know, but they still want to do as they please. That's Trojan horse in the church.
So you talk about wanting the freedoms without accountability.
Correct.
And you talked about a prevailing idea that in the SDA church now in South Africa, there are people who have different views, but they should keep them to themselves.
Yeah.
So that they are excluded from speaking.
Correct.
And from sharing. And so these divergent views you say here, they actually are seeking to silence others by calling them with derogatory terms.
Correct.
Such as if a man comments on women's issues, they call it toxic masculinity.
Correct.
So that a man cannot comment.
Yeah.
And now, let's talk a little bit about that point. Because you write a little bit about feminism. I think you call it unbridled feminism.
Correct.
If I use the right English.
Radical feminism.
Yes. Talk to us about how that becomes a Trojan horse in our movement.
Well, look, here's the point. You remember earlier on I said, in the Adventist church, the culture is we engage ideas. We talk, we discuss. All right. So it becomes a foreign thing in the Adventist church to say, don't talk. Or you are not qualified to actually talk, and then you silence people. Anything that you don't disagree, you disagree with, you don't want to hear. It's a foreign thing in the Adventist church, and people who came in here knowing that we share ideas, we discuss, we do that. But once they're in, then they want to stop that culture. They want to kill that culture. That's Trojan horsing. Now, specifically with respect to what happened, is that this was a women's conference, and now you have women who say men can't talk about this. Only women can talk about that. Now you see, if you've been following the philosophy of feminism. Feminism basically says it absolutizes women's rights in almost anything and everything to the point that men men no longer matter in the affairs that affect women.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by unbridled feminism. So you've got things like this creeping now into the church.
Yeah.
That we are women, we stand for women issues. We don't want men in this thing.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. And I'm saying you don't want that type of thinking in the church where women say these are women issues and we don't want men in them. In a church environment, you don't need that. Because then what you are breeding is something that is creating division within the church. So basically then you are saying there are women in church, there are men in church, there are this in church, there are that in church. And Paul in the book of Galatians says, we've gone past that. The no longer women, no longer men, no longer this, no longer that. Of course, the context is salvation.
Yes.
And I understand that. But the context is not only salvation, it is also fellowship.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? So feminism is creeping into the church. But it's not only feminism. If you can listen very carefully. We've got homosexuality coming into the church.
We've got preferences.
We've got transgenderism that is coming into the church. We've got elitism that is coming into the church. And I'm saying, once we start talking in terms of certain groups, preferential groups, we are creating a division within the church. Yes.
The Moabites came in, and there were consequences.
Of course.
Talk to us about some of those consequences you feel could actually result from allowing this Trojan horse in the different areas. And I mean, the other issue I noticed in the paper was the role of leadership. Because Balaam and Balak were leaders. And when this thing came in, leaders were involved in this thing. So talk to us about some of the consequences that the Moabite effect had on Israel, and how does that apply to us today? Surely this division and all this coming in of a strange way of worshipping has an effect, an impact on the church.
Of course,
What is it that we are losing?
Well, number one, this brings about a spiritual contamination. You see, when the Moabites came and mingled with Israel, and not only them, by the way, if you read the history of Israel, you've got all these other neighboring nations infiltrating Israel, and these resulted in spiritual contamination, and the relationship between Israel and God got affected to a great extent. But then you realize also that you had problems with the coming generations, all right? So the generations that followed, what happened? Got affected to a point that Israel got to be known as a stiff-necked nation by God. Prophet after prophet was killed, and God kept raising this issue that lift up your spirituality. Go back to the former things. Remember where you've fallen. You know, basically, that these are the messages that the prophets were sharing with Israel. Now, here's the problem. When we allow some of these things to creep into the church, the spirituality of the church is getting affected.
Okay.
And that is very obvious. And you know where you pick that up? Where you pick this up? You pick it up in the quality and the content of the preaching.
All right.
From the pulpits.
Okay.
You realize that we've got content from the pulpit which seems to make God's people comfortable in their compromised positions.
And in their sins.
In their sins. And that is a big problem. But that is not only affecting us, it's affecting the coming generation.
Yeah.
All right? Our children, our grandchildren are getting affected. Not only that, we are losing our identity as a church.
Okay.
All right? Because now what we're doing is we are trying to make the church look like the world instead of trying to transform the world, change the world. All right? But because we want to be popular, and I'm sure as time goes on, we might want to touch on that, but because we want to be popular, so we bring the world into the church, and that compromises the integrity of our message, the integrity of the moral integrity of the people in the church, right? And even our mental acuteness becomes compromised as a church. So these are the results that we reap when we are silent and we don't talk about these issues.
It's quite amazing actually that you even mention the fact that scholarship is pushed aside. People are no longer thinking. Yet God says, let my people think.
Correct.
Come, let's reason together.
Correct.
God is a reasoning God.
Correct.
You also mentioned the disregard for authority, which is a consequence of the Trojan horse.
Exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Exactly. Look, you can actually see it from a local church level, all right? That there seems to be that obstinate, determined a disregard for authority, some kind of an anti-authority mood.
Yeah.
Now it's not a process or a phenomenon that is unique to the church. You actually see it everywhere. You see it in our homes. You see it in the communities. You see it everywhere. Police are no longer respected as they used to be respected before. Teachers are no longer respected as they used to be before. Government officials and stuff like that. And there are reasons for that. We may not have time to delve into that. But that spirit has actually crept into the church.
Okay.
So you see it at a local church level, where there's no respect for eldership, for elders in the church, for seniors in the church, and that type of thing. But it goes beyond that. And then you look at.
But here's a question I have for you.
Yeah.
This lack of respect, could it be because these seniors are messing up as well? And their sins are in the eyes of the little ones. They know what these old people are up to.
No,
have we modeled good leadership to the young ones?
That's just part of the problem.
Okay.
That's just part of the problem. But the problem is deeper than that. The problem is because we have removed God from the equation of our lives, even in a church environment. Remember that it's not everybody who goes to church who believes the same way.
Yes.
All right? So church today has become some kind of a social club. So God, in a practical sense, in a pragmatic sense, is no longer in our vocabulary.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So once you remove God, the ultimate authority, all right, then standards, then rules, then all these other things become subjective. All right. So that's where the whole anti-authority comes from. Because if you don't respect God, how am I going to respect my father or my mother? If I don't respect my mother and my father, how am I going to respect an elder in the church? But listen to this. If I do not respect God, how am I going to respect my employer?
Okay.
You see where it's going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the whole rationale behind respecting authority has been removed. So if I have no respect for God in church, I can't respect man in church, irrespective of his position in church, and irrespective of how we relate. And that's where the whole problem is.
The other big challenge that comes with the Trojan horse, at least from the Balaam Balak story, is the immorality that followed.
Correct.
Which ended up excluding, like you said, 25,000 people getting killed. It looks like we have an epidemic in the church of immorality.
Yeah.
And this doesn't exclude anybody in the equation, from the highest, if there's any high level of the pastoral, to the laity. We have an epidemic in the church. I can speak like this because I'm from my coaching experience and the kind of issues I hear from people that need help in relationships, in divorcing, and in trying to build their homes. I definitely get an idea. The Trojan Horse has come in through a flood of immorality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many of the people who are serving, I'll talk specifically on the category of singers. Some of their lives are not aligned. I would say maybe everyone, not necessarily the singers. If you look carefully at their lives, you can realize that they're actually living in an apostate life. Some of them drink beer. Some of them smoke. Some of them live with women they have not married. And some of them are in a lifestyle that's totally unchristian. And so when you look at the maze of the challenge we have a problem of immorality in the church. We definitely need to get some clarity on how did we get so low. From your view, what is involved here?
There are a number of factors that could have contributed to that. I would like to say that one of the contributing factors to that is that as seniors, be it leaders, be it parents, we don't lead by example. That is problem number one.
Okay.
All right, and as you said earlier on, our children have peeped, through the curtain, and then they've realized, and
the peeping toms.
Yeah, and then that becomes a problem, because then they can learn from us, and our children today are not like us, where our parents would say, "Do as I say, but don't do as I do."
Yes.
It becomes a problem. So factor number one is that as seniors, as leaders, be it in the context of a father, a mother, or a church leader, or whatever the case might be, we don't lead by example. But number two, we have rationalized and redefined sin.
Okay.
And that's where the problem is. We have redefined sin. We no longer we no longer drink beer, like you put it. Now, when you said we drink beer, you
it's too graphic and
you old school.
School. Eh?
Yeah, you old school. We don't drink beer. We don't. No, we just having drinks.
Yeah, social.
Yeah, we just having. I'm a social drinker. That's what, so we redefined it. We don't get drunk. We just get.
It's just one glass.
Yeah, we just get a little bit high and excited and the type of thing. We no longer we don't cohabit anymore. We just move in together.
Oh, we moved in.
We just move in together. We're not homosexuals anymore. We're just having an alternative lifestyle.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? We are open-minded. Now that is a big problem. That is a big problem, because once you change how people think, then you change how they behave, and the way to change how people think is to change their language.
Wow.
Is to change their language. Now, language has been changed to redefine sin. And that is why it becomes so easy for sin to just come in and then we accept it.
Yeah.
And it becomes a daily thing. But another thing is we are at a time today in church where we don't, and it goes back to what I wrote in the article, where we no longer believe in absolutes, in standards. We don't want to be held accountable. We don't want standards against which our behavior has to be changed. And then what we have done also, we have privatized morality.
Oh,
that's another problem.
Yes,
we have privatized morality.
You can't tell me.
No, that's my issue.
Yes,
that's my problem.
Where do you come in between me and God?
It has to do with me and my God.
And if me and my God are okay with it,
exactly. God is the judge. Who are you? So we have privatized morality, and the reason why we have privatized morality is because we've pretty much privatized everything.
God is even on our side.
Exactly.
Such that we can say, I saw this tweet, I'm sure we can put the picture on the thing. The way they say, we have left the church, but not God.
Exactly. You understand me? Yes, yes.
The church is God's wife.
Exactly.
It's the inn.
He instituted it.
Yes.
Yeah,
he left the sinner at the inn.
Exactly.
Which is the church.
Exactly.
And you're now saying, I left the inn, but I didn't leave God.
So these are the reasons why we are so easy on sin. Yes. You know, some reasons are conceptual, others are practical, and that type of thing. But here's the problem, because we preachers are caught up in the same scenes. We're preaching sermons that speak more to us than to the congregation. We can't rebuke, because these sermons must also speak to us.
Okay.
We can't rebuke to ourselves. So we preach sermons that make, again, God's people comfortable in their sins, pacify them, because we're caught up in the same things that the congregation is caught up in.
I want us to take a break on this one, and we'll be back with the next series. Don't go away. We're talking about being Trojan Horsed, the attack from within. See you on the next episode.